Have you noticed this? So many people over 60 say the exact same thing to me. Doctor, I sleep a full night, but when I wake up, my head still feels heavy. My chest feels tight. It's like my body never really rested. They're not insomniac. They don't stay up late. They're not abusing coffee. And yet, their brain never truly rests. In my clinic, I see this so often that I consider it a quiet warning sign of modern aging. Not loud like a heart attack, not obvious like diabetes, but it slowly drains quality of life day after day. You lie still in bed, eyes closed, body motionless, but inside your head, your thoughts keep running. Memories feel scattered. There's a vague sense of anxiety you can't quite name. This is not just normal aging, despite what many people believe. It's a sign that the brain is failing to switch into its nighttime repair mode. My name is David Warren. I've worked with adults and seniors for over 30 years. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's this. Older adults don't lack sleep time. They lack the ability to slow their brain down properly. When you're younger, your brain knows when to speed up and when to slow down. But after 60, that system starts to break down. The brain becomes like an old house. The lights are still on, but the switches don't respond the way they used to. And when the brain refuses to slow down, it doesn't repair itself. It doesn't clear toxins. It doesn't strengthen memory. The result? You sleep, but still feel tired. You wake up irritable. Your memory feels slower. And there's this nagging sense that I'm not as sharp as I used to be. The good news is this. Your brain never stops listening. It just needs the right biological signal. Not strong drugs, not force. In this video, I want to share something very gentle, very old and often forgotten, a way to help your brain slow itself down and repair while you sleep. Not a miracle, not an expensive therapy, but a simple evening habit based on the real biology of the aging brain. Now, if you're over 60 or caring for aging parents, listen closely to what comes next. Because sometimes to help the brain heal, you don't need to do more. You just need to give it what it's been missing for a very long time. Part 1. The aging brain isn't tired, it's overstimulated at night. After years of working with patients over 60, I've noticed a common misunderstanding. Most people think the brain is tired because it worked too hard during the day. The truth is the opposite. The aging brain is rarely tired from activity. It's exhausted because it doesn't know how to stop. Your brain runs on signals. During the day, stimulating signals help you think, remember, react. At night, those signals are supposed to quiet down so repair can begin. In younger people, this slowdown happens naturally. But with age, the nervous system becomes more sensitive. Excitatory signals last longer. The brain struggles to shift from work mode to repair mode. So even though your body is still, your brain keeps running as if it's daytime. That's why you don't sleep deeply. You wake up during the night. You wake up with a heavy head, not because you're a bad sleeper, but because your brain never truly rested. When the brain slows down the right way, people notice very real changes. Falling asleep more easily, fewer nighttime awakenings, waking up with a lighter, clearer head, memory no longer feeling sluggish. Many patients tell me the same thing. I'm not sleeping longer. I'm sleeping better. That's the difference between sleeping enough hours and sleeping restoratively. To help the brain slow down, you need to send it a signal of safety before bed. Not by force, not with heavy medication, but with small, consistent cues every night. A lighter dinner, softer lighting after 8 p.m., avoiding strong stimulation close to bedtime, and most importantly, nourishing the brain with what helps it know how to shut down. This is the foundation for everything that follows. I always tell older patients, the brain doesn't need to be forced to rest. It just needs permission. If you've been sleeping for years and still don't feel better, don't blame yourself. Don't assume you're just too old. You may simply be missing a very small biological piece, one that determines the entire quality of your sleep. And in the next part, I'll talk about that missing piece. Something the aging brain is increasingly lacking, but that turns out to be the key to slowing it down naturally. Part 2. A small biological signal determines whether the brain can turn off at night. Once patients understand that their brain isn't weak, they usually ask me, "So what does the brain actually need to rest, doctor?" My answer often surprises them because it's not complicated and it's not new. For the brain to enter nighttime repair mode, it needs a calming chemical signal. Think of it this way. During the day, your brain is like a busy city. Green lights, traffic moving, information flowing. At night, that city needs yellow lights, then red lights, so maintenance crews can get to work. In older adults, that red light signal weakens over time. Not because the brain is broken, but because the body no longer produces enough of the raw materials needed to slow things down. When that signal is missing, the brain keeps receiving stay active messages. Memory and emotional centers won't settle. Sleep becomes light and fragile. This is biology, not a lack of willpower. When the brain receives the right signal again, the changes are subtle but unmistakable. The mind feels quieter before bed. Anxiety fades without effort. Sleep becomes deeper and more continuous. Mornings feel mentally refreshed. Many people tell me, "I stopped chasing sleep. It started coming to me." That's when the brain is finally working with its natural rhythm. Instead of trying to force sleep, focus on preparing the brain for night. Don't eat heavy meals right before bed. Avoid mentally stressful activities late in the day. Create a quiet window before sleep. And most importantly, consistently provide cues that tell the brain the day is over. This isn't a one-time fix. The brain learns through gentle repetition. I always remind patients, the aging brain is like a sensitive child. The gentler you are, the more it cooperates. If you've struggled with sleep for years, don't look for stronger solutions. Start by restoring the most basic biological signals. In the next section, I'll show you familiar natural foods, right from your own kitchen, that can provide this signal safely, slowly, and sustainably. Part 3. The aging brain doesn't lack medication. It lacks calming raw materials at the right time. At this point, many of my patients sigh and say, "Doctor, I've tried everything. Sleeping pills, herbal teas, even meditation." And I always answer honestly, you didn't do anything wrong. You gave your brain tools, but not the raw materials. The brain doesn't calm down on its own. To reduce nighttime activity, it needs specific molecules that lower excitatory signals, balance neurotransmitters, tell memory and emotional centers, "You're safe now." When we're younger, the body makes these materials efficiently, but after 50 or 60, production slows or stops altogether. The result? The brain can't act as its own gatekeeper. Stimulation spills into the night, deep repair never fully begins. That's why so many people sleep but don't feel restored. Wake up with racing thoughts. Feel anxious without knowing why. When you give the brain what it actually needs, the changes are quiet but powerful. The mind settles naturally before sleep. Sleep comes gently but deeper. The brain begins cleaning and rebuilding overnight. Mornings feel lighter and less draining. Many patients tell me, "It finally feels like my brain shuts off at night." That's the sign the brain has enough raw material to slow down. Instead of relying on external fixes, focus on nourishing the brain from within, especially in the evening. Prioritize foods that are easy to digest, non-stimulating, naturally calming to the nervous system. Timing matters. Evening is not for fueling up. It's for telling the brain that work is done. I often tell older patients, the brain doesn't need to be made sleepy. It needs to feel safe. If you've tried for years without improvement, don't blame yourself. Your brain may simply be hungry, not for energy, but for calming nutrients that age has slowly taken away. In the next part, I'll show you familiar, traditional foods that can deliver these calming materials to your brain while you sleep. Part 4. Old-fashioned foods are often exactly what the aging brain needs at night. There's something interesting I've noticed after many years of working with older adults. The things that help the brain rest best are usually not new or trendy. In fact, they're often very familiar foods from an earlier generation, the kind many people ignore today because they seem outdated. The aging brain does not like strong stimulation at night. It needs signals that are slow, steady, and easy to recognize. Traditional, minimally processed foods tend to share a few key qualities: simple protein structures, gentle on digestion, naturally calming to the nervous system. When these foods are digested in the evening, the body doesn't have to rush or struggle, and the brain receives a very clear message. There's no danger. Nothing urgent is happening. It's safe to rest now. That message is what opens the door to restorative sleep. When older adults include these foods wisely in the evening, they often notice a lighter feeling in the stomach at bedtime, less unexplained restlessness, sleep coming naturally without effort, clearer thinking in the morning. One patient once told me, "I never thought such a simple food could affect my brain this much." But the truth is, the brain is extremely sensitive to small changes. The principles I usually recommend are simple. In the evening, simplify. Don't try new or exotic foods close to bedtime. Avoid too many stimulating ingredients. Favor foods that are easy to chew, easy to digest. Mildly seasoned. You don't need to overhaul your entire diet. You just need one gentle anchor in the evening. I often remind my patients, the aging brain doesn't like surprises. It prefers what's familiar, slow, and predictable. If your dinners have become very complicated over the years, try going back to something simpler, not as a form of restriction, but as a way to give your brain the conditions it needs to rest properly. In the next part, I'll show you how to build a very specific evening routine. Nothing fancy, nothing expensive, but enough for the brain to clearly understand, today is finished. Part 5. The brain only repairs itself when you create a repeated end-of-day rhythm. This is the part many people overlook, even though it determines almost 90% of the success of everything we've discussed so far. The aging brain does not respond well to sudden changes, but it learns very quickly from steady repetition. The brain doesn't tell day from night by a clock. It relies on familiar signals. Dimming light, softer sounds, a lighter stomach, a nervous system that's no longer on edge. When these signals appear in the same order every evening, the brain automatically switches into repair mode. It's time to restore. But if every night looks different, one night you eat late, another night you're on screens right before bed, one night you're stressed, the next you're overly full, the brain never fully shuts down because it can't predict what's coming next. When you establish a stable end-of-day ritual, changes tend to follow a clear pattern. After a few days, sleepiness comes more easily. After 1 to 2 weeks, fewer nighttime awakenings. After 2 to 3 weeks, mornings feel lighter, less exhausting. Over time, memory and emotions become more stable. Many patients tell me, "I didn't do much more, but my body just knew it was time to rest." That's when the biological rhythm begins to correct itself. I usually suggest a very simple framework. After dinner, keep it light, don't add heavy snacks, about 60 minutes before bed. Soft lighting, no information overload, one familiar action every night. The same light evening food, the same quiet window of time, the same rhythm. It doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be the same every day. The brain loves predictable repetition. I always tell older adults, good sleep doesn't come from effort. It comes from a life that knows how to end the day. If you're searching for a big dramatic change, pause for a moment. Sometimes all the brain needs is a safe evening rhythm, and it will do the rest of the work while you sleep. In the next section, I'll summarize the entire picture and show you how to begin very gently, starting tonight. Final thoughts. Before we finish, I want you to remember one important thing. The aging brain does not lose its ability to recover. It only loses the signal to begin recovery. Throughout this video, I never asked you to do harder exercises, take stronger medications, or completely change your life. I only wanted you to understand one core truth. When the brain refuses to rest, the problem isn't willpower. It's a biological rhythm that's been off for too long. When you reduce evening stimulation, eat more gently at night, create a repeated end-of-day rhythm, and nourish the brain with things that are calm, slow, and familiar, you're sending your brain a very clear message. Everything is safe now. You can begin repairing. And when the brain receives that message consistently, it does what it was designed to do. Clear fatigue, reorganize memory, calm emotions, and help you wake up with a lighter head and clearer mind. If you remember just one thing from this video, remember this. Good sleep never comes from force. It comes from giving the brain the right rhythm to return to. If you found this helpful, please subscribe so I can continue walking alongside you, week after week, with gentle, biology-based guidance designed specifically for health after 60. And finally, I need to remind you, this video is for educational purposes only and does not replace personal medical advice. If you have specific health conditions, please consult your doctor.